The entire quest to destroy the One Ring could have unfolded completely differently. There might have been no secret fellowship, no perilous journey for Frodo Baggins, and no need for two small hobbits to save the world. The key to this radical alternate history lies in a single moment of deception at a meeting of the White Council. Hi guys, my name is Jason, and on my channel Lore TV, I love exploring all of the lore of my favorite franchises and the kind of stuff that inspires me as a fantasy author myself. Today we're asking what would have happened if Saruman had told the truth, and would his loyalty have changed the fate of the One Ring. Our story begins in the year 2851 of the Third Age at a meeting of the White Council. Gandalf the Grey, having just risked his life exploring the fortress of Dol Guldur, returns with terrifying news. The shadowy necromancer who lives there is no mere spirit. It is Sauron himself returned. Gandalf urges an immediate attack, and in our history this is where it all goes wrong. Saruman the White, leader of the council, overrules him. He lies, claiming the One Ring was washed out to sea and is lost forever. He does this because he wants the ring for himself, and his secret search for it has just begun. But in our alternate history, Saruman makes a different choice. He confronts the jealousy that has gnawed at him for centuries, a bitterness born when Círdan the shipwright Gandalf the Elven Ring of Fire, Narya, sensing a greater spirit in the Grey Pilgrim. In this moment, Saruman rises above his pride. He looks at his friend Gandalf, sees the truth and terror in his eyes, and chooses wisdom over ambition, and he agrees. He declares that Gandalf is right, and the ring is not lost, and his research in the archives of Minas Tirith suggests it was lost in the river near the Gladden Fields, perilously close to where the enemy now hides. He says that they must strike now and begin the search. The council is stunned into silence, not by a lie, but by a chilling truth. A united White Council for the first time in a long time has a single purpose. This single act of honesty changes everything. So with Saruman's immense knowledge and Gandalf's urgency driving them, the council doesn't wait 90 years like they do in the actual books. They attack Dol Guldur that very year. The combined might of Saruman, Gandalf, Galadriel, and Elrond is overwhelming. Sauron, not yet at his full strength, cannot stand against them. He is forced to flee, abandoning his fortress in the west and retreating to Mordor, just as he does in the canon timeline. But this victory feels different. It's not a hesitant, delayed action. It's a decisive, preemptive strike. And more importantly, the council isn't deceived. They know Sauron has fled to Mordor, and they know the One Ring is still out there, a weapon waiting to be found. Saruman, now a true ally, directs the search. Using his deep understanding of the ring's lore, he pinpoints the exact location of Isildur's demise in the Gladden Fields. Elves from Lorien search the riverbed. They don't find the ring, for it had been found by a creature named Smeagol centuries earlier, but they do find the skeletal remains of the High King Isildur and Elendilmir, the star gem of his house. The discovery is somber, but it confirms one critical piece of information. The ring is no longer where it fell. The search must now look elsewhere. The wise now know they are not just fighting Sauron, but racing him to find his lost weapon. Now keep in mind this is all theoretical. I'm just kind of like pulling out scenarios of what I think might happen. But for the next few decades, the world is deceptively quiet. A loyal Saruman transforms Isengard into a true fortress of the West, strengthening not only its walls, but also its alliances with Rohan and Gondor. He becomes the wise counselor Theoden's ancestors should have had, helping Rohan build its strength and coordinating defenses with the stewards of Gondor. Wormtongue never gets the chance to whisper his poison because Saruman is a shield against such corruption, not its source. Meanwhile, Gandalf's travels take on a new intensity. He isn't just wandering and smoking pipeweed with hobbits. He is an intelligent agent on the hunt for any rumor of a magic ring. This brings us to the year 2941, a familiar adventure to reclaim a lonely mountain from a dragon. The story of the Hobbit plays out much the same, with one crucial difference. When Bilbo Baggins returns from his riddle game with Gollum and mentions the magic ring he found, Gandalf doesn't just file it away as a curious fact. His mind, primed by Saruman's decades-old warning, immediately sounds the alarm. And he doesn't wait to get back to the Shire. On the journey home, perhaps at the House of Beorn, Gandalf confronts Bilbo. He demands to see the ring, and with a heart full of dread, he throws it into Beorn's hearth fire, and there, the terrible truth appears in the letters of fire. It's the One Ring. After nearly a century of searching, the greatest prize and greatest danger in Middle-earth has been found by the most unlikely person imaginable. And what happens next will not just be a secret departure in the night, but a call to arms for the entire world. Now, by the way, you've probably noticed that I don't have sponsors or affiliates in the middle of these videos, and that's because the channel is entirely funded by my community. But I do have something you might be interested in, and that is my community. It's where you can get every single fantasy book my team and I have written, all of it set in this shared magical universe. For instance, if you like Tolkien, you might like this book, which is a reimagining of Edmund Spenser's The Fairy Queen, which was written over 400 years ago. And in this universe, all mythologies are real and they coexist. So that's how I keep making these videos. And if that sounds cool, there's a link in the description below. All right, so there is no 17-year wait. There is no slow creeping dread in the Shire. Gandalf takes Bilbo and the ring straight to the safest place he can think of, Isengard, the impenetrable fortress of his wisest and most powerful ally Saruman. An urgent council is called, not in the hidden valley of Rivendell, but in the mighty tower of Orthanc. Elrond and Galadriel arrive, and the kings of men and dwarves are also summoned. Here Saruman confirms their worst fears. His study of the rings has yielded no alternate method of destruction. It must be unmade in the fires where it was forged. But how? Sauron is at Mordor, his armies gathering, and to gaze into Mordor and assess the danger, Saruman unveils his most powerful and dangerous tool, one he has kept hidden and unused, the Palantir of Orthanc. Stealing his will against the dark presence he knows he will find, he looks into the stone. He sees the legions of orcs, the building of the Dark Tower, and then a piercing gaze meets his own. Sauron is there and he is aware. But Saruman in this timeline is not a wavering, prideful fool. He is the chief of the Astari, and his will fortified by purpose and friendship. He wrenches his gaze away from Sauron before Sauron could dominate him, turning to the council with a grim report. Sauron is indeed in Mordor. His army is vast, but he is not ready. Not yet. They have a chance, but they all know a frontal assault on Mordor with the ring bearer in tow is suicide. The ring's corruption would shatter their alliance before they even reached the Black Gate. So they need a different plan, one built on both overwhelming force and absolute secrecy. And for that, they have the two greatest strategists in Middle-earth, a loyal Saruman and a hopeful Gandalf working together. The plan is twofold, a masterstroke of cunning and might. First, the alliance of the free peoples must muster the greatest army seen since the last alliance. Led by Saruman and the heroes of the council, this grand army will openly march on the Black Gate of Mordor. This is not a feint in the same way that Aragorn's was. This is a genuine all-out assault meant to draw every last scrap of Sauron's attention and force. Rohan, stronger than ever under a clear-minded King Theoden, Gondor, reinforced and better prepared, elves from Lorien and Rivendell, dwarves from the Iron Hills, all united. Saruman's voice, his greatest power, is used not for deceit but to inspire. It rings across the ranks, hardening the hearts of men against fear and despair, a beacon of light against the encroaching darkness. They crash against Morannon, the Black Gate, in a battle of truly epic proportions. But the real quest is happening in secret. While Sauron's eye is fixed on the war at his doorstep, a second smaller group takes a hidden path. The ring bearer is still Bilbo Baggins. He's older than Frodo was, but stouter of heart, fresh from the adventure of Erebor, and he is not alone. With him is Gandalf. He does not fall in Moria because Saruman's weather magics are not used against the Fellowship, allowing them to pass over the mountains. Gandalf's presence is a shield against the ring's influence, his wisdom a guide through the shadows, and they are escorted not by a scattered fellowship, but by the most powerful guardians the council could spare. Elite elven warriors led by Glorfindel, and perhaps even Beorn in his bear form, a silent, terrifying protector. Their journey is still perilous, but it is a mission with the full coordinated support of the wise. As the Grand Army of the West batters Sauron's legions at the gate, buying them precious time, Gandalf and Bilbo make their way to the heart of Mount Doom. Because Saruman held the line, both on the battlefield and in his own heart, the path for the ring bearer was made. Bilbo stands at the precipice, resists the final temptation, perhaps with Gandalf's help, and lets the ring fall. With the ring's destruction, Sauron is utterly annihilated. His armies crumble, the Tower of Barad-dûr falls, the war is won, and Saruman the White is not a disgraced traitor, but one of the chief architects of the victory. He is hailed as a hero alongside Gandalf, his wisdom credited with uniting the free peoples and devising the strategy that saved them all. He does not bring about the scouring of the Shire. Instead, he helps rebuild the devastated lands. Isengard remains a center of learning and protection, and his final years are spent in honor, his knowledge helping to guide the new age of men under King Elessar. He is not murdered by a wretched servant at the door of Bag End. Instead, when his task is truly finished, he likely would have joined Gandalf, Bilbo, and Frodo on that final ship, sailing west to the Undying Lands, his mission complete and his spirit unbroken. Although maybe in this scenario, Frodo actually wouldn't have gone. His fall into darkness was a tragedy not just for him, but for all of Middle-earth. It cost them dearly in blood, time, and hope. But in this other history, we see the true measure of what was lost. A hero, a strategist, and a friend who, by making one right choice, could have saved the world from so much of its pain. So why did Saruman fall in the first place? It wasn't really a single event, but a slow corrosion of who he was in his spirit. As a Maya named Kuramo in Valinor, he was a being of immense power and skill, a student of Aule the Smith, much like Sauron before him. But his defining traits were pride and a hunger for knowledge, especially knowledge of how things are made and controlled. When he came to Middle-earth, his study of Sauron's chief weapon, the Rings of Power, became a bit of an obsession. As Tolkien wrote, it is perilous to study too deeply the arts of the enemy for good or for ill. For Saruman, it was for ill. He began to envy Sauron's power, to desire the ability to order the world as he saw fit, and he believed he could wield the One Ring for good, a classic villain's mistake. His jealousy of Gandalf was the spark, but the kindling was already there. He came to possess the Palantir, and through it, Sauron slowly bent Saruman's will, not by direct command, but by feeding his pride and ambition, letting Saruman think his treacherous plans were his own. In reality, he was just becoming a pawn. His fortress, more of a mere branch office for Mordor Inc. His fall is a cautionary tale about how the desire for power, even with good intentions, can become a path to destruction. The story of Saruman shows how one person's choices can shape the fate of everyone around them. It's that idea, that interconnected stories and high-stakes choices, that I love exploring in my own writing. If you enjoy these deep dives into lore, I think you'll really love what I'm building in my own group that I've built on a platform called School. When you join, you get everything, all of my fantasy ebooks and audiobooks with at least one new novel every month. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and check out the link down below, and I'll see you in the next video.